10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 477. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 477 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. This week we wrap up our series on essential chord progressions, and by no means are these four progressions the only essential ones that we should be working on. But, we got to kind of draw the line somewhere, so we're going to wrap up with another progression that I think is absolutely beautiful and really beneficial for you to work on in isolation. And this one's so fun. I had such a blast creating the backing track and the trading tracks and just kind of playing over this. And this is definitely one that I'm going to be shedding over this week. So let's do something a little bit different this week. How about I just play the backing track for you right off the bat? And what I want you to do is close your eyes and just really, really listen to what's going on. Do not worry about trying to characterize what's happening. Don't worry about trying to guess at the chords. I just want you to close your eyes and listen and put all your being into really, really paying attention to this chord progression as it goes by. Then we'll talk about it later. I'll tell you exactly what it is. We'll talk about the voice leading, all that good stuff. But really just try to use your powers of listening to get as deep as you can into this just through your ears. Kind of a nice sound, isn't it? All right, so let's dive into actually what this is. So we are in the key of concert B flat this week, and the progression is actually pretty simple, but contains a whole bunch of really beneficial chord movements. So we're starting with B flat major. And then we're doing a really common movement that we see in a lot of tunes, where in order to get to the 2 chord, what we use is called sharp 1 diminished as a passing chord, right? So that would be B diminished 7. And that's a really, really nice passing chord up to the 2, which is C minor 7. And then what we're going to do is in the last bar of the progression, we're going to go to the 5, like we would expect. But then over the last 2 beats before resolve, we're going to do a tritone substitution. So we're going to hear a B7 chord. So the whole thing will sound like this. We're on the 1. Then we go to that sharp 1 diminished. Then we go to 2. And then 5. Tritone sub. Back to 1. And the cool thing about this is that using that tritone sub, through practicing this, you're going to understand that there's so many relationships between the 5 chord and its tritone substitution, right? So F7 and B7. And there's so many different ways to conceive of that. There's so many different things to play over it. There's so many approaches. And I think the best way of sort of working out your approach, what you think sounds good, is to simply just play over it many, many, many times. And that's what this is going to provide you with, is a tool to do that. And you're going to discover a lot through that. Okay, so there's the actual progression. Now let's talk about some of the voice leading. The voice leading is really, really nice in this. And what I've done is I've included 3 different paths through these changes that you can voice lead. So the first one starts on the major 7th of the 1 chord. And then when we go to the diminished, our line comes down a half step. Then when we go to the 2 chord, our line comes down another half step. Then when we go to the 5, we go up a whole step. And then over that tritone substitution, we use a common tone. And then when we land back on 1, we're on the note we started on. So here's what it sounds like all together. So really get used to that and sing it. Sit down at the piano and do exactly what I'm doing, where you're playing the root and the voice leading line, but you're singing the voice leading line while you play it. All right, here's the line number 2. So on this one, we're starting on the 3rd of the 1 chord, and then we're using a common tone. Then we're going up a half step for the 2 chord, and then we're using a common tone over the 5 chord and over the tritone. And then we come down a half step. So check out what that one sounds like all together. That one's a really nice one. Okay. All right. And then on voice leading number 3, we're going to round out sort of the chord tones here. We're going to use the 5 over the 1 chord. Common tone. Go up a whole step. And then we're going to use the 9th over the 5 chord, which is a common tone. Come down a half step, and then land back on the 5 chord. And this one has a lot of, land back on the 1 chord, my bad. This one has a lot of implications that would be really, really cool to observe, get used to the sound of, because this one will come in really handy when you're trying to come up with interesting lines. Let's listen to it again. So think about that last bar and what it's implying and some of the things that you can do over the top of that. Okay, so that's going to about do it. We are going to include the backing track, the voice leading worksheet. All those voice leading lines that I just played are going to be spelled out for you so that you could sit down and you could practice them right away. The Patreon members will get all that stuff, and the $5 members will get a trading track so that we can play back and forth and practice some of our material on this. You'll have somebody to bounce off of. Now, one thing that you will notice with this series is I only did major keys, right? And that was intentional. I wanted to get you into a rhythm as far as only dealing with major keys for now, but sort of opening up your eyes to this way of practicing, this way of taking common chord progressions and practicing them in isolation so that you could really, really begin to hear the sounds and then bring them into tunes. So you can adapt this to minor keys if you want to. Or perhaps in the future, I'll do a series on common chord progressions in minor keys. You know, they're not all that different, but there are some key differences. So let me know if you want to see another series dealing with all minor chord progressions, or at least the tonality being minor and some common shifts in those keys. So if you want to get your hands on all the materials, all the supporting materials from this episode, we are a listener-supported podcast, which means we don't do any kind of advertisements on the show. Instead, we rely on the people getting the benefits out of this stuff, you, the jazz student, to support us and keep this thing going. We do that through the Patreon platform in the form of a very small monthly donation. In return for that donation, you do get worksheets and practice tracks and all kinds of amazing stuff with every single episode. You also get access to our entire back catalog. So you can learn more about that and get yourself signed up for instant access to everything by going to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and clicking on one of the Patreon banners, or you can go to patreon.com and you could search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson. You will see all of the stuff over there, the different donation levels, episodes and all the information on what you get. Thank you so much if you choose to do that. That's really a big deal. Again, that's how we keep these shows coming out. And of course, to everybody over there supporting us, thank you. We could not do this without you. All right, folks, let's close out the episode with a little bit of playing over this progression and this backing track. Next Friday is the 5th Friday of October, so we're going to be taking the week off as we normally do. Hope everybody has a happy Halloween, and we will see you next month with some brand new episodes. Bye, everyone.